Alright, we have got some interesting vocabulary words today, 5 of them, from paragraph 22 of chapter 1 of George Orwell's 1984. And the words that I've chosen today are perverse, plausible, parody, claptrap, and dull. Now if you remember, we did dull back in paragraph 3. We're using it in a completely different way this time. So stay tuned till the end and we'll talk about how we're using it differently this time. Somewhere around the beginning of paragraph 22, they're talking about Goldstein. They're showing him on the telescreen. They're doing the 2-minute hate. And it says, Goldstein was delivering his usual venomous attack upon the doctrines of the party, an attack so exaggerated and perverse that a child should have been able to see through it. Okay, and the word I want to talk about here is perverse, which is a pretty interesting word, because what perverse means is that you enjoy doing something that you know other people think is bad, or you enjoy breaking the rules. It feels good for you to break the rules and make other people feel uncomfortable. Just take a look at the picture behind me. Usually a smile will make you feel comfortable and happy, but does this smile behind me, does that make you feel comfortable? Does that make you feel okay? Or does that make you feel the opposite? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? That's a perverse smile. It's a perverse smile because probably he's smiling because he did something very bad and he knows that it would make other people feel very uncomfortable. But also it's a perverse smile because of the way he's doing it. It's supposed to be something that makes you feel good when you see somebody smile. This does the opposite. This takes something good and turns it into something bad. So perverse is a little complicated. It's a kind of a complicated word. But now here in the story in paragraph 22, when it says that his attack was perverse, it sounds like maybe he was enjoying saying these horrible things about the party because he knows that they can't do anything. They're always trying to find him and get rid of him, but they can't. So he enjoys, from his hidden position, saying horrible things about the party. It makes him feel good. It's perverse. If we continue in that same area of the paragraph where they're talking about perverse, let's just start from the beginning. Goldstein was delivering his usual venomous attack upon the doctrines of the party, an attack so exaggerated and perverse. So he's really enjoying saying these horrible things about the party, making them feel uncomfortable, that a child should have been able to see through it, and yet just plausible enough to fill one with an alarmed feeling. Okay, the word plausible here means something you can accept, something you can believe. It kind of means believable. So, yes, his attacks were exaggerated. Yes, they were perverse. So he was saying things that maybe weren't true, apparently. Or he was enjoying saying horrible things. It was obvious that he was enjoying being bad. But they were also believable. They were also plausible. You could accept what he was saying, even if it sounded a little bit crazy. It was easy enough to accept. It was plausible. Have you ever watched a comedy show or a comedian where they imitate a popular television show or a popular song? Maybe they change the words. Maybe they exaggerate something. This type of making fun of something that already exists is called a parody. It's usually done through exaggeration. Maybe they'll exaggerate the characters or they'll exaggerate the style. And that's a parody. In paragraph 22, it says that he was advocating for freedom of speech. Goldstein was advocating for freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought. He was crying hysterically that the revolution had been betrayed. And all of this in rapid polysyllabic speech, which was a sort of parody of the habitual style of the orators of the party. and even contained newspeak words. So Goldstein's delivery style of talking about different types of freedom was done in the style of party members, but it was done in such a way that he was making fun of them. He was making fun of the leaders of the party, the speakers of the party. That's what orator means, speaker. So this is how he delivered his information, by imitating the style of the party, but in a way that it was obviously exaggerated and kind of funny. A little bit further on in paragraph 22, it says, "Lest one should be in any doubt as to the reality which Goldstein's specious Claptrap covered, behind his head on the telescreen there marched the endless columns of the Eurasian army." And the word that I would like to focus on here is the word claptrap. He says specious Claptrap. Specious sounds like, sounds reasonable, sounds believable, but it probably isn't. So, it's kind of like suspicious. Claptrap means like empty words, words to get applause, words that you think people want to hear, words that will get people's attention, but not necessarily true, or not necessarily exact. And that's kind of, it's kind of like the old-fashioned version of clickbait. Clickbait is like a picture that you click on because it's shocking, but then when you get to the link, when you get to the other side, it's really not what you thought it was going to be. Clickbait can also be like an outrageous, crazy headline, but when you actually click on the article, it's really not that interesting. And that's kind of what Claptrap is. It's saying what you think people want to hear to get their attention, but it isn't necessarily true. Near the end of paragraph 22, it says, "Row after row of solid-looking men with expressionless, Asiatic faces who swam up to the surface of the screen and vanished, to be replaced by others exactly similar, the dull, rhythmic tramp of soldiers' boots formed the background to Goldstein's bleeding voice." And we've already talked about the word dull back in, I think it was paragraph 3, and we were talking about dull razors, dull razors. The word dull is the opposite of sharp. So you can have a dull knife, you can have a dull razor. Dull can also mean boring. So if a person is dull, or if a party is dull, it's a boring party. That's a pretty common way to use the word dull. Here, they're talking about the sound, the dull sound. So I guess if you think of the word sharp, not as something physical, but as, if you're talking about non-sharp video or non-sharp audio, it could sound very, very unclear, maybe, or maybe very monotonous, like it just keeps going and it's kind of boring. It's also in the background, it's sort of unclear. So this is a different way to use dull. It's still kind of the opposite of sharp, but a different type of sharp. Well, that concludes paragraph 22. So we're still in that 2-minute hate. It's being described in great detail. And now, as usual, would be a good time to go back over some of these previous paragraphs, listen to the readings again, listen to the discussions again, and try to get a feel for some of these words that we've already talked about. We've talked about so many of them already. Okay? And if you found this information helpful or useful, please press the like button. And if you'd like to see more, then press the subscribe button. I will see you again in paragraph 23 of chapter 1 of 1984 by George Orwell.